Hi, I'm Dr. Randy Hurst. Particular video is an overview or a tool, hopefully, to use for worrying, especially if worrying has gotten out of control, if it's taking over more and more of your time and your life, if it's getting in the way of paying attention to what's going on around you, to what people are saying, because your mind is going on worrying about work, worrying about a relationship issue, worrying about what might happen, things that might go wrong, about the past, about the future. These are things that can really take over our lives, especially if there's been some trauma, abuse, something traumatic happening, a car accident, a death, a loss. There's so many things. I mean, if you have this going on in ways that start taking over your time and your attention, you'll know it. You might protect yourself from knowing it by thinking that the other persons who are frustrated with you are the problem. But if what they're saying is you're not paying attention, you're always off in somewhere else, you're not present. If that's about worry, if that's about focusing on loss, focusing on feelings roiling around in your head, memories of something, intrusions, visions of things that have happened, or worries about the future. Hopefully this is for you. I call it corralling. Now, as you know, if you've seen some of the other videos about anxiety or fear conditioning, some of these may not be up yet. I'll get them up there. But the fear, the threat part of the brain isn't particularly cognitive. It's down deep in the brain, and it can affect what we believe, what we know, what we think a lot. But it's from a place that has to do with threat, has to do with loss, has to do with hurt. And it truly can take over our lives. And to learn, one of the ways to manage this is to put it in a corral of time and of place. And give yourself permission to worry. You know, what people try to do is they try to get rid of it. And I go, if you've had bad things, if you're worrying about things, if your struggles with sleeping at night as you can't shut your brain off because that's going through all the things that happened in the day or might happen tomorrow, put it in a corral of time. Choose a time that you can really spend with it. And let's say that's an hour. Well, so what if it's an hour? If you gain back other hours that you can actually be here and be attending what's going on. And it sounds silly, but I've used it for years with people, and it tends to work. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't have things pop into your head. You will. We can't stop that deep threat-based part of the brain, but we can satisfy it by stepping back. Step back from the emotions, as you may have heard in another video, or 2 or 3, and remind yourself, I'm going to do that in my time, the hour or so before I go to bed. That's actually kind of a good time, because if you can take care of things, you can manage it in a way that lets you let go to sleep. So one of the ways of this corral is to pick a time that you can spend time with what worries you. And then one of the corralling tools, so to speak, is to write about it. Now, the reason I like writing is that you have to slow down and you have to form it into words. That takes the thinking brain. The emotion brain isn't good at coming up with the words. It's great at feeling. It's great at sometimes taking over our lives, but it's not good at really coming up with words. And if you can put words to it, you can look at it and say, well, is that reasonable? If a friend of mine was feeling that way, would I be worried for them? Would I be concerned that this is taking over their lives? And if it was my child, would I want them to do that? And what would I say to my child? What can I say to myself? What can I do about it? And if it's something, like say in the past, if it's something that there's absolutely nothing you can do about changing what it is that's rolling through your brain, is learning how to accept that you can't change it anyway. That having it roll through your brain won't change anything. And then look for, well, what can you do? And try to focus on the things that you can do something about. And even as I say these things, and I always told people, as I say these things, it sounds easy. It's not. It's not at all. That you can remind yourself, you can take a deep breath, slow yourself down, write out what it is, and maybe some of the why. But then the focus on, well, what can I do? What can I do today? Or if the day's over, what can I do tomorrow? What can I do on a day-to-day basis to try to remember what I can do something about? And to remind oneself to let go of what we can't change anyway, to focus on what we can do. So one of the things that happens a lot for this kind of worry is something that happened today. Well, we can't change what has already happened. We can look at, well, is there something I can do tomorrow about what either I did or I didn't do today, or what somebody else did? What can I do tomorrow? And write that down. Make an intention of doing something you can do more of. People will often try to focus on stopping doing something, stop worrying. And I try to make it about, that doesn't work very well. Try to make it about stuff that you can do, and then try to remember to do it. Write it down, make a list, remind yourself the next day to try to do. And just understand that if you don't do it, if you just blow it off, forget about it, that's common. This is a progress, not perfection kind of a thing. The brain is weirdly tricky. In one of the videos, well, I can just talk about it now. The brain can become very automatic, can kind of go on its own autopilot. And unless we very intentionally remember to break the pattern, we just keep doing what we've been doing. And learning to recognize, this is a pattern that's causing me problems, and then intentionally do a little different. Do a little different, do a little different, do a little different. And in time, you'll find that you're doing it. And you have no idea when it started. Look at the racquetball metaphor. It kind of describes this in a way. But you'll have no idea when it started, but you'll be doing more of the new thing that you're trying to do instead of repeating the old autopilot that was causing problems. And try that. Look at the racquetball metaphor. Write, pick the corral of time, write, do the things that you can do. If you can do it today, you can do it now, excellent. But a lot of times you're doing it the next day. But just remember to keep that in notes, a list or whatever, and try to remember to mechanically do it. You won't necessarily feel like it. In fact, if it's about things like anxiety or things that have really troubled you, you'll try to avoid it. Of course, you won't change then. But if you're really trying to do things differently, if you recognize or believe that's something I need to do, know that it'll be more anxiety provoking. You won't be good at it. You'll flub it up. But in doing it, it gives you a sense of what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And let go whatever failing or falling short that you may have had now, and plan on how you might do a little bit better. How can we grow a skill without being poor at it? We can't. So just keep doing the new thing day to day, and you become this person that is knowing and doing better. But it's through doing. It's not through knowing. One of the biggest keys is the doing is what changes the brain, not the knowing. Insight isn't it. Doing is it. Okay. Yeah, look at the racquetball metaphor. Look at the doing more video, and you'll understand more. Thank you. I hope this helps. If it gets worse, as you've heard me say in others, get help. If slowing down doesn't help, if just trying to keep the faith isn't enough, it takes longer than anybody wants. But get help if it gets bad enough that you know this isn't enough. These videos, they're not enough. Go get help. The videos will help give you the background to make use of professional help better and hopefully be cheaper for you. Thanks again for viewing, and hope these help.